for others to share as well. Okay.
Hi, Clay Ledger, 73 West Union Street, and owner of a community incubator that's a pop-up throughout the Hudson Valley. I am also an investor and business broker as well for tech startups in California and here in New York. I'm looking at it as what is the future going to come? How does this tie into innovation in our city and the current demographics within our city? For one, the data that I paid for from net, from other resources, shows that Kingston is lacking in 2 to 3 bedroom apartments for families by huge numbers, and affordable housing for purchasing prices and things like that. Another question would be, how does this fit into the overall innovation of tech within the city that the city's going to use and supporting of businesses, new businesses and current businesses, and innovation for current businesses. So how does this affect, let's say we put in, because our goal is to fill in Broadway right now. Let's say we put in 25 businesses and storefronts. How does this currently support, by the numbers that we're seeing, that families can't live here who have 2 to 3 children? As someone who has 3 children and lives in a 2-bedroom apartment here in Kingston and can't find housing, that affects me as well. You know, I would love to live in a net zero building here in Kingston that's innovative, but if it doesn't have enough housing for everyone, you know, and again, that whole street, you know, I walk those streets all the time, and I'm seeing the condemned buildings, absentee landlords. How does this tie into the overall picture of code enforcement and innovations in policies? And then my policy engineer side comes out. How does this fit into, you know, the master plan of 2025 plan and growth within the city and smart growth? Because I think we're making a mistake here. I'm seeing a lot of the mistakes that Palo Alto made back in the beginning days happening here in Kingston, not necessarily with this project, but with other projects and our focus. And I'd like not to see those mistakes repeat themselves here in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, well, it's hard to make mistakes when you don't do anything, and frankly, nothing's been done in Kingston in quite some time. So I think a number of people have talked about the bedroom size, and it's something for us to consider. Again, I'd ask you to submit some of the questions. I'd love to talk to you about some of the data that you're looking at. We're looking at data that clearly shows shrinking households and also high demand for 1 and 2 bedrooms as well. We know there's a number of families here as well, and again, if I haven't made the point clear enough, the need for affordable housing in this city, in almost every municipality in the country, is great. And it is across the entire spectrum. And so do we need more 3-bedroom housing in Kingston? Yes, we do. In terms of some of the abandoned stock, it's possible when to attract funding to gather up abandoned housing stock. We're involved in a project in Newburgh currently to do so. I think fortunately for us, we don't have the level of abandonment that Newburgh has, and so we're working in 2 or 3 block areas where we can gather, 20 to 30 buildings, and that doesn't really exist in Kingston. Scattered site housing is difficult. It's difficult to fund, it's difficult to manage, it's difficult for a lot of reasons. Clearly, there's a tremendous amount of housing rehab need. We have some of the oldest housing stock in the nation here in the Northeast. And a number of units that are occupied or owned by some home ownership and a lot of landlords. We have very good landlords. We have some mediocre landlords, and we have some landlords that, frankly, we like to get out of the business. A lot of absentee landlords, and it's difficult to deal with their stock because it's owned privately, individually, and we can't really touch it. If there's energy for us to start to entertain a gathering of abandoned condemned housing that could be given up for free. A lot of it's tied up with banks and various things. It's always complicated. But if there's a way to get there, then that's a possible different project. No one project. And some of the questions you asked about how things might affect, tech and things in the city, that project's not going to affect it either. No one project can be the answer to all things. We think that, again, a mixed-use building in the core of downtown city, frankly, if we can't do that, if that's not needed, then I'm missing the boat. I don't know what, and I don't understand what I think I understand about community-centered development. But again, let me invite you to please be in contact with us. We'd love to talk to you about your experience in the tech world as well, and provide better answer to your questions.
Hi. The Kingston, there's this, I'm right here from the Avenue Shopper. I've been in Kingston about 10 years, and the things they're always talking about is, we want technopreneurs. Well, my wife is a technopreneur. They say they want artists. I'm an artist. They say they want entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. I've owned businesses, and I also have affordable housing. And in my experience here, that I've been here, the things that are consistently happening are, and I've talked to friends who have a master's degree in planning and also own very large buildings in Kingston, and they always specifically say, you tax what you don't want in a city. And we have a homestead, non-homestead tax rate, and 16% of the buildings pay for 53% of the tax burden in the city. And it's frustrating to see people who provide good housing, like myself and many other building owners, who have to turn around and shell out $25,000 to put in a nice kitchen with stainless steel appliances and nice wood floors, and have wonderful tenants who can participate in our local economy. When we're competing against an organization like yours that gets tons of tax offsets, grant monies, always seems to have the inside track on what's going on. And when you're a nonprofit, you're supposed to have a non-political affiliation, as was passed in the 1950s if you are a nonprofit, and you consistently see that you guys have a very strong leaning, and you see it very much in people who are set for this particular city to be our community outreach people, who are constantly leaning towards an agenda. Most of what you do, I feel, undermines the community. And when I was talking to everyone on the county council yesterday on the phone when I saw this meeting, the vast majority of people on the county legislature absolutely agree with that perspective, the ones who represent Kingston. We have an absolute glut of your organization in the city. We have 58% of the entire county's subsidized housing right here. And before you say, oh, it's because you're the county seat, or it's because, well, it's time to start redistributing this. Because I can tell you, in Uptown, where everyone wants to talk about all the artists and all the restaurants, there's 150 subsidized apartments that undermine the prosperity of the businesses. And someone who has had a business and still has one that's I sublet, and many other restaurants who I'm very close with, they completely say, we don't have enough people, affordable housing, that can go and participate in the economy. Well, when you have a building that pays such a higher degree of the taxes, it makes it harder for someone to want to come in and start a business or own a building, especially when, okay, maybe they don't live in that building, so they don't get a vote. And then when you have things like constantly get ignored, there's not enough of a public forum for these things and discussions. I don't think I have enough confidence in seeing the failure at the Kirkland and the way that was presented and how none of those have been reached. My understanding is there's an apartment that was overbuilt that nobody's lived in because of the regulations. There are supposed to be 2 restaurants, and it's wonderful that you house something for O positive. But I can tell you, with enough nonprofits and churches, there would have been plenty of spaces that would have stepped up. And to see just a total distrust in the public saying there's going to be 2 restaurants. Well, any private building owner, there's an old expression, it's called half a loaf is better than none. To sit there and watch it be empty all of those years is a total misrepresentation to the public of what it's supposed to be. And when you're asking for $20 million, and I've gone through the tax maps of the worst wards, you can go through the worst wards in the city of Kingston, and you can look at the taxable section and look at the entire assessed value of 40 houses around the worst blocks. You go down one street, next street, up, and there's a rectangle right there. The entire assessed value is between $600 and $1.3 million for the absolute worst tax sections in Kingston. $3 million in Kingston. Buying up that housing would make a tremendous thing. And you want to take $20 million, and yes, it's already been signed off, so it's free money, right? If we don't get it, it's going somewhere else. Well, you know what? We've seen an 80% increase in the taxes budget in New York over the last 10 years. There's not a business in Kingston that is experiencing an 8% increase in their business right now. We have an $18 trillion federal debt. You can sit there and say, oh, this money's there. What are you going to do? Nothing? Well, you make it harder. You make it harder for people to do something because of all of the, because we're not playing on an even playing field. You're getting money that's not yours. And then you get to expand your nonprofit and get Empire Zone grants when they're still available. Because you're providing jobs, even though you undermine jobs. And every single one of those businesses in Midtown you're talking about, you're going to actually make it harder for them. Because they're going to have more of a tax burden. And we have low sales tax in the county and in the city. And the vast majority of the reason is, and all that wonderful, beautiful housing stock that we're talking about in Midtown, look at all these beautiful houses. Absentee landlords. Well, that's the narrative. All we ever hear is the absentee landlords. Well, guess what? The vast majority of those absentee landlords receive federal monies. These federal monies are administered by a program that you run, and the requirement is that these buildings are inspected annually. Well, who inspects them? You inspect them yourself. You self-police them. Where's the outside? Where's the public? Where's our city council getting to inspect it? Where are the outside independent architects? Because when we turn around and talk about, well, there's gangs, there's a baby died in a fire in a house, and there's all of these things happening, and you're the one self-policing this. I have no faith or confidence in your organization. And you can turn around and say, we want this first-time home buyer program. You can walk to any one of these local banks, and they will administer the same program and get you out of it. And we could not waste the money on some grant that's going to go for a part-time salary.
Well, I guess we can agree to disagree. I didn't really hear a question. I can tell you that there's no local bank that you can walk into that's going to give you $25,000 or $30,000 in a grant. I would hold up that the Kirkland, while we haven't been able to attract a restaurant, has had 8 all apartments full, and the civic space that's available there serves a great deal of public good, and we offer it up to a lot of nonprofits, and we're using it ourselves now because of our growth. Our agency has doubled. So we think that projects that the Pettit House that sat vacant for 20 years on Clinton Avenue, we repurposed that as 4 condominium units. We think that the project, the Lake Smell sitting boarded up for 20 years, that is now being leased up starting tomorrow. We're one of the largest taxpayers in the city of Kingston, and we pay about $220,000. Seriously, I listen to you, and at least that. So we're one of the largest taxpayers in the city of Kingston. It's in our white paper. Stuyvesant, for example, paid $94,000 last year, half to the school, half to the general tax. There's no live at the Stuyvesant. So we think that we do good. We provide some real jobs in the city. We've got about a staff of 50, and we can agree to disagree.
Yes. I just have one question.
Sure.
I was just wondering. Hi. I will make a list of questions. And I should say I went through the first-time home buyers club, and yes, and so it was my house actually, and through the home thing, I personally wouldn't own a home without that program. My husband and I. So it was a process, going through a year-long process, but it prepared us for all the trials and tribulations of owning a home. So when I heard that you were involved in this project, that actually made me feel better. I work and live in Midtown, so I did have a couple of feelings at first saying, is this really going to fit? And so I'm going to echo a couple of the statements, not all of them, a couple of them. But just one of my questions was that there's a big lack of green space in our area, especially elder children. And so when the comprehensive plan was happening, we were talking a lot about hopefully finding more green space or even indoor play space for kids. And so I just wondered, the aerial park that you're talking about, is that going to be restricted completely to residents? Is there going to be any public space that's available? So that's my first question. The rest.
Well, we certainly see that hopefully the Center for Creative Education
that whether it's a parking benefit or a benefit for their children, that I'm sure that as you go along and you have these community meetings with the residents that are there, which I'd be happy to help with, I think that if we can look at those benefits, that would be great.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Hold on, put your mic.
I was wondering about the.
Hold on for 1 second.
My mom always said my voice carries. I probably don't need this.
Whoa, here we are. The Center for Creative Education and the hub, the Digital Innovation Group, will RUPCO be able to donate building out their space for them? Or will they have to raise money themselves as if they were building a new building, as if they came in as a tenant?
Sure, it's a good question. Commercial space is very expensive to build, and one way or the other we have to fund it. So there's the opportunity to attract capital grants specific towards the commercial space, and the other is to borrow money, which we do on all of our projects, and pay off the debt through
But
rent.
you'll be doing it for them? You'll be developing that space for them?
With
Will
them.
they be able to support the rent on the kind of space that you're building out?
Ed, you want to respond to your thoughts about the space?
Yeah, well, good question. And we're delighted to be able to pay our full share, our fair share of the cost of putting this project together. So we're going to make it, it's going to be a combination of fundraising and then we're already paying rent every month as it is. So this will just, we'll actually have more space for what would cost us less money. So for us, it's a good deal. It's a good change.
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. My name's
Kitty McCullough. If you have the capacity to do that kind of fundraising, that is a valuable skill in our community, and it would really be good if we could begin to share that kind of non-profitability to actually support the kind of capital expenditures that all of our nonprofits need. So if you can,
but
I guess, I'm sorry, this thing's
very touchy.
yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think this was the bad one that they. That's why I missed it. Yeah, thank you.
I guess my concern would be that this space is getting developed, and not to. I don't mean to be contentious, but there are vacant spaces like the restaurants that have never been filled. And if you were a private entrepreneur, you wouldn't be able to afford that. But because it's public money, you can have those empty spaces. And if these people that are moving in, if these two organizations that are moving in are not able to support their part of the cost, then they'll just be vacant at the public expense. And I just want to know for sure how much of a feasibility for Kingston supporting the ongoing occupancy of either one of those organizations. Those kinds of questions, because this project came up so fast, we haven't really been able to get our arms around that. And in our community, there's not the capacity for organizations to take care of those kind of expenses, to develop the kind of staff they need and so forth. So especially if this one can, that could be a model and it could be very helpful to the rest of us. But a lot of attention needs to be paid to that and a lot of the other questions that have been raised. How do we have both and? How do we have a project like this and address the neighborhoods and address the capacity of the organizations that we're going to house, that sort of thing? And can you help us with that?
Well, I've already been accused of overpromising, so I'll be careful. Again, one project, any single project can't be everything to everyone. This project is is what it is. It's an opportunity to create affordable housing and some civic space that can serve the needs. I heard questions about would there be any fallback on the city if the space is empty, and absolutely not. There's no role for the city. This is being privately developed by RUPCO. We had, we've been able to attract a restaurant, display marketing the space since 2005 at the Kirkland. We use the space in a variety of ways today, and we carry the debt. We have, I think, about $1.2 billion in debt on that building that we pay, and we carry that responsibility. The city would not have the responsibility. So, look, we've got a long way ahead of us. We think there's a lot of deliberation still to occur. We've heard some good things tonight. Several of the boards here in the city have to take action. We've talked about a funding process that's out there. We're trying to act as if we're going to be successful, as if the healthy corridor that's being proposed for the 2 hospital campuses is going to be successful. We're acting as if, the attraction that O Positive and others, things that are happening, that clearly, to us, it appears that things are happening, and Wall Street looks different today than it did just 2 years ago. There are new people coming. We're seeing the realtors report a little bit of an uptick as well. So we're acting as if, we think that this can play a part of that, ostensibly to provide some rental housing in an environment that I think, net zero for living, I think, is something that we could all really get behind, and it's sustainable. It helps to put Kingston on the map, but it can't do everything for everyone. So we welcome, further dialogue, and if I haven't directly answered some of your questions, Kitty, I'd be happy to try to do that better in writing and go from there.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll just take one more question over here. Let's go to question 15.
You told me I have to stand and stuff, so super quick question. I was just wondering if this plan, are you guys kind of conceptualizing this as it's this or some very close version of this or bust, or is there any consideration of doing an adaptive reuse with the existing building? I've heard talk of doing a skating rink or doing an indoor soccer field or some kind of recreation space for children that would also bring people to the area. Has there been any consideration of something like that?
No, again, our mission is to create homes, support people, and improve communities. So we are not interested in bringing a skating rink to town. We are interested in bringing more housing. Once again, we participated in a study that we think is spot on to the need for affordable housing. It's called for 900 units of new rental housing to be produced in the city by this year. It's not happening. We want to be part of that. So can we tweak the project? Yes. But we are solely interested in designing a mixed-use building, which we believe to be urban planning 101, and with a sizable portion of housing units. And so civic space that's designed not to be, again, to be redundant, competing with the retail space on Broadway, but rather to serve some very specific needs. And we're still taking a measure. We feel very confident in working with the Center for Creative Education. We've been fans of them for a long time. We are thrilled with the new relationship that we're just starting out and making with Cale and the folks that he represents and the possibility that this represents. We've talked with Cale and others at Pattern for Progress about the possibility that this could be a bit of a flagship, and that we could have these sort of tech incubators in several of the Hudson River cities with some shared branding and some shared support services, some shared internet services in a place where people who live in Middletown or Peekskill or Beacon can also not just meet the people that are cohabiting an incubator there, but also the one here in Kingston. But as I said, there's a long road to go down, and we're not on TV yet, not by a long stretch.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Scott. And I want to thank everybody who's participating tonight.
planning board is the lead agency on the project. And as Kevin mentioned before, you can certainly go to RUPCO's Facebook page to take a look at this project. You can also stop down in the City of Kingston Planning Office and discuss the project with Sue Cahill and her staff down there as well. Again, I'm going to mention that July 13th at our regular monthly meeting, there's going to be a public hearing on this project. Even though you spoke here tonight, folks, if you certainly come and talk that night again, that's your right, and we certainly welcome it. Again, I want to thank RUPCO and their staff and my planning staff for having this meeting tonight. And it's time to make a motion that we adjourn. Second by Robert Jacobson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.